What is up guys, it's Francis the instructor back with another Get Licensed Driving School video, and today we're going to talk about the driving syllabus. So this list of subjects is not exhaustive. There are obviously other things that you need to learn to be able to drive safely, especially in a busy town and centre like London. For example, when we learn roundabouts, it's not just one lesson. There's going to be so many lessons on roundabouts: simple roundabouts, advanced roundabouts, spiral roundabouts, traffic light roundabouts. There's 4 lessons just right there. So when you go through this list, especially if you're with your parents or friends learning to drive, just bear in mind that once you've learnt roundabouts, that's not it done. There's so many different types. So to be able to get from I have no idea how to use a car to I can drive independently, there's some subjects that you need to learn along the way. We call this the driving syllabus. There's not really a set syllabus like there is in schools and universities and colleges, but there are certain subjects that every driving instructor will teach you to be able to get you from, I don't know what a clutch is, to I can take a roundabout. So today I'm going to take you through each part of the driving syllabus. I'm going to give you a little explanation of what each subject is, and hopefully by the end of the video you'll have a better understanding of what you should know to be able to drive a car. So the first thing in the syllabus, and the first thing that I teach all my students, is the cockpit drill. This is DSSM. This is how to set up the car so that you can drive it. Before we even switch on the engine, we need to adjust the seat, check the doors are closed, maybe adjust the steering wheel, make sure that the mirrors are in the right place, because everyone's a different height, size or shape. I'm slightly taller, so I'll need the seat further back. If you're a bit shorter, you'll need the seat further forward. If you sit lower, I might need the steering wheel to be a bit lower so that my hands can reach it nice and comfortably. And also, you as the driver are responsible for all the doors. It's really important that you understand that, so that you can check whether your passengers' doors are closed as well. So the next thing in the syllabus are vehicle safety checks. These are the basic roadworthiness checks that you need to do on your car before you start driving, so that you can check that your car is safe and legal to go on the road. On the driving test, they call these show me, tell me questions. There's a really good link on the gov.uk website which has all of the questions and all of the answers. Go through these with your driving instructor though, or at least while you're sitting in a car. The show me questions need you to press buttons or pull levers in the car. So if you're in the car, you'll be able to find, then locate the button. For example, how do you wash and clean the rear windscreen? Just like that. If you're not in a car, it's going to be difficult, and each car is different. Each car will have buttons and levers in a different place. Okay, the next thing that you should learn on driving lessons is controls and instruments. We need to learn about the controls and instruments before we can drive the car. So on your first lesson, there might be a lot of talking and there will be a lot of theory to take in. It's an intense lesson, the first one, because there's so much information to process. But pay attention, because once you've understood each and every controlling instrument in the car, you'll be in a much better position to use them without having to think too much, because what you want to be doing is thinking about what's on the road, not where to put your hand on the gear stick. The controls and instruments that we're talking about inside the car are the pedals, the gears, the steering wheel. The dashboard has the instruments. It's got your engine speed, your road speed, your fuel level, all of the other important information that you need while you're driving. If any of the lights light up, like red or amber lights, you need to go through those with your instructor so that you can understand the warning lights on the dashboard and be safe on the road. If you have a warning light come up, you need to know what it means. Make sure that you really pay attention on this first lesson with controls and instruments. There's a lot of talking, and all you want to do, I know, is drive the car. But you need to pay attention, because this is important information. There's so many controls and instruments to make the car do what you want it to do. If you don't understand what they do and what they mean, you're not going to be controlling the car, and it's not going to do what you want it to do. So next up on your driving lessons, you're going to cover moving off and stopping. This is where it gets fun. You can actually drive the car. So there's 100 different ways of doing nearly everything in driving. Each instructor might have a different acronym or mnemonic. Here's mine. POM, prepare the car to go, observe all around, and then move. So P for prepare, clutch down, first gear. Now the only thing stopping my car from moving is my clutch is down and my handbrake's on. Next, observation, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's my 6-point check done. I know the coast is clear and it's safe to move. So I'm going to put a signal on to let people know I'm moving. Handbrake goes off and I'm steering into the road. So now I'm driving. So now we need to know how to stop the car. I'm going to first check my mirrors, middle and left. Coast is clear. I'm going to signal to show my intention to move in towards the curb, and I'm going to do that now. Still clear on the left. If my signal cancels, I'll put it back on again. I'm in a nice parked position, so my clutch goes down. Press the brake and then handbrake. Neutral, cancel the signal and relax. Done. The next thing you should learn is safe positioning, but it's not just one lesson. Safe positioning should be taught as an ongoing subject. As you learn new road situations or new road scenarios, you should still learn about safe positioning. So I've got lots of parked cars on the left. How far away should I be from them? I'm turning into a road on the right. Where should my position be? Just left of the center line of the road? Yep. As I get onto a dual carriageway, I'll need to learn more about safe positioning. Right now, look how narrow this road is ahead. Where's my safe position? Is it close to the left? What about those car doors though? Is it in the middle of the road? What if an oncoming vehicle comes towards me now? Safe positioning is a really in-depth subject and you need to go through this with your instructor. So safe positioning here, how far behind that blue car should I stop? Tyres on tarmac? This is the phrase or buzzword that I like to use. If you can't see the tyres on the tarmac of the car in front, you're too close. It's really important to keep a safety bubble, and your instructor should talk to you about safety bubbles. It's so important. In London, people don't follow the rules on safety bubbles and safety margins. People stop too close to each other. Okay, so now we're on the main road. Where's my safe positioning? It's completely different to the other roads. I'm going to use this bus lane. Why? Because I've read the sign and it's after 10 o'clock. Where should my safe positioning be in this lane? Right in the middle. Okay, I tell you what, theory test question, because I'm in traffic. There's a car in front of me. I'm traveling at 30 miles an hour on the road. How far away from that car in front do I need to be? To make this question harder, it's raining. How far away do I need to be now? Answers below. Okay, use of mirrors is something that's taught from beginning to end. We never stop talking about mirrors. They're your biggest safety feature. If you can see what's around you, you're less likely to hit it. Some people say, what's your biggest safety feature in the car? Airbags. I don't think so. Airbags stop you from getting hurt once you've had a crash. If you're checking your mirrors properly, you're going to stop yourself from having a crash in the first place. So your mirrors are super important. Why do we use the center mirror? Why do we use the door mirrors? What are they used for? When should I be checking them? All of these things are really important and you need to be going through them, not just once, not just for one lesson, but through the whole of your driving lessons. You can go really in depth on a lesson about mirrors. So we can start talking about blind spots. Where are the blind spots? How big are the blind spots? Blind spots are big enough to hold a bus in. You can hide a bus in the right blind spot, pull away and not see it if you're not checking your blind spot. It's so important to be checking that, and you will get marked down every single time that you pull away from a parked position and don't check your blind spot. But we're not teaching you how to pass a driving test, we're teaching you how to drive safely for life. So if you want to go even more in depth into your mirrors, we need to know about what kind of glass is in each mirror. Why is this one flat glass and what does that mean? It gives you a true picture of what's behind you. So if I look over my shoulder now, I can see that van's number plate. If I look here, I can read the number plate in that mirror as well, because it's giving me a true picture of distance. If I look in either one of my door mirrors, the number plate's a lot smaller. This glass is curved or convex, which gives you a much wider view of the road, but it does make things look smaller. Why is that a problem? If we can understand the problems and the limitations of the mirrors, then it helps you to be able to overcome them. So if I know that this is going to give me a smaller picture of what's on my left, I'm going to check this one first so I can get my brain into gear with distance. If I go to overtake a cyclist and I only check this mirror, the cyclist will look smaller and therefore further away. If I check my center mirror before I check my door mirror, I'll be able to get my brain engaged with the distance and make sure I don't give the cyclist the fright of his life. Next up on the syllabus, we're going to be learning about signals and use of signals. And just like most of the other subjects, it's not just a one lesson issue. We should be learning about signals on so many different road situations. Signaling to overtake, signaling to change lanes, signaling out of and into junctions, signaling around roundabouts. There's so much to learn on signaling. So it's not just half an hour, a quick brief and do the lesson and done. We need to be learning a lot about signals. So just a quick one here. There's two things that we need to consider when we're signaling. Is it necessary and is it misleading? So think about, is your signal necessary? Most of the time it is. It's going to be helpful to somebody on the road, but is it going to be more misleading? Let's drive around now and I'll try and show you what I mean. So I've done my P, O, and do I need to signal here? It's definitely going to help somebody if there's any cars on the road, if there's any pedestrians on the road. Is it going to be misleading if I signal to pull away now? No, so it's definitely more helpful than misleading. So let's apply a signal. And I'm going to turn left next. Is it necessary to signal? Absolutely. Is it misleading? Not at all. It's definitely more helpful than misleading in this case. Okay, so I'm coming up to some parked vehicles. Would it be helpful for me to indicate? Yes. Would it be more misleading? Yes, because there's a junction on my right. So in this case, I'm not going to signal. Even though it would be, let's say, 10% helpful to somebody, perhaps, it would be more misleading. Okay, so there's a car on the road. I'm gonna just move my car to the left. Just from that little positioning change, that car can see that I'm helping them out. Don't forget, your car is as much of a signal as your indicators are. So I'm gonna turn left on this roundabout. Mirrors, signal. Is it necessary? Is it helpful? Yes. Is it misleading? I wouldn't say so. So everybody knows what I'm up to, everyone can see what I'm doing, and I'm giving everybody behind and in front of me a nice, good opportunity to react to what I'm doing. Okay, lots of parked cars down here. I'm just moving my car around. I'm not gonna signal to overtake the parked cars, and I'm gonna take a left here. Is it necessary to signal? You can see that I'm crossing into a new road, so it's definitely necessary to signal. Is it misleading? No. Is it helpful? Much more helpful than misleading, so I'm gonna apply a signal in that case. Signal. Necessary, helpful, yes. Misleading, no. Okay, next we're going to talk about anticipation and planning. Such a vital skill when you are learning to drive, and you can use it not just when you're learning, but throughout your whole driving career as well. I've done a video on hazard perception. Click here to watch it. You'll be able to learn a lot about anticipation and planning if you watch my video on hazard perception. But for a quick summary, let's take a drive and I'll talk you through the main points. All right, so as you're driving, you should always be planning as far ahead as you can see. So at the moment I can see a car turning right and traffic lights coming up. I'm going to be turning right on these traffic lights, so I'm planning the fact that the lights might turn red and I need to change my plan or course of action. Now I'm stopped at the red traffic lights, I'm not going to fall asleep. I'm always planning ahead. What's in the road that I'm turning into? What other hazards could be around as I set off? Thinking about, is anything going to come past me? Cyclists or motorbikes on my left or right? I'm going to check the mirrors before I set off. You should always be thinking 5, 6, 7, as many steps ahead as you can. So now my lights are turning green, I'm checking both mirrors and I'm anticipating the fact that there's going to be some traffic ahead that I need to stop for. Because I've made that decision early, it's not going to be a panicked or rushed decision. I'm going to make the choice smoothly and calmly. I can see ahead that there's a gap in traffic, so I'm going to take that. And I'm going to keep planning ahead. I'm going to look as far down the road as I can. I can see a van that's parked on the left. It's an ambulance, so I'm going to make sure I check my mirrors nice and early so that I can move around it safely. I can see again, there's a couple of hazards ahead, this van that's turning and the pedestrian crossing. There's no one on it. I've made that decision early, so I know that I don't need to drop my speed. Up ahead, there's a pedestrian on the left. I can anticipate the fact that they might cross the road in front of me, in which case I'll be in a good position to slow down and stop for them. Okay, so as I'm setting off, checking my mirrors, moving around the Uber car that's parked randomly on the road. If you anticipate earlier, your driving is going to be safer and you're going to feel more relaxed. Brixton! Brixton! Base. If you do an advanced driving test, you have to do a commentary like this. You have to tell the examiner exactly what you're doing and what you're thinking at all times. It's a really good skill to practice. I try and get my learners to practice commentaries, talking as you're driving, because it just helps you to start planning ahead. It pushes your vision further down the road. When you start learning to drive, you'll be planning ahead literally to what's at the front of your bonnet. It's quite hard to start thinking about what's down the road and not looking at what's directly in front of you. So anticipation, planning ahead, hazard perception, practice it a lot. If you're learning with your mum, dad, family, friends, make sure you're doing it with them as well. Do the commentary. Commentary is so good. It might make you feel silly to talk to yourself in the car, but I promise you, it's such a good skill. It's important to understand that the speed limit is not a target. It's an absolute maximum if the road conditions are perfect. So I'm on a road now. This is a 20-mile-an-hour road. Right now I feel quite safe doing 20 miles an hour because I can see all the way to the end of it. But as I'm coming up to this blind corner, I'm gonna lower my speed because I don't know what's coming. It's harder to anticipate and plan ahead. Anyone could be behind any one of these cars. So I did 14 miles an hour around that corner and I felt a lot safer. Definitely wouldn't be appropriate to do 30 or 20 miles an hour around that bend. So let's see what we can see on this road. I can see all the way down to the end of it, but I can't see what's behind the parked cars. So I'm at 15, 16 miles an hour now. And if someone was to jump out from behind the white van or behind the Toyota pickup truck on the left, I'm gonna be able to deal with it nice, safely and effectively. So at the end of the road, I can see the speed limit's changing to 30 miles an hour. Let's turn left onto that road and we'll see whether 30 miles an hour is a safe speed. Okay, so this road's nice and long, it's really straight, there's not many hazards around. I can see all the way down to the end of it, there's no parked cars, and I'm going to use the bus lane, which helps me see even more. 30 miles an hour is definitely a safe speed for this road, but let's see the road condition change up ahead. There's some cars braking on the right, so I'm going to lower my speed just in case I can't see what's behind the one in front. There's also some stuff happening up ahead with traffic lights and parked vehicles. I'm going to take a right turn. So I did that section at 24 miles an hour. 30 miles an hour is the absolute limit if the road conditions are perfect. It's not a target. That's what people sometimes fail to understand. Even once they've completed driving lessons, I don't need to go at 30 miles an hour if that's the maximum speed of the road, especially on these little country lanes where the maximum speed is 60 miles an hour if you've got national speed limit. National speed limit is almost always an unsafe speed for a very small country lane. It's up to you to decide what the safe speed for the road is. Okay, turning right onto this main road, the speed limit has increased to 30 miles an hour. Is 30 miles an hour safe on this road? What do you think? We can see all the way down to the end of it. Hazards are minimal, there's no pedestrians and there's no parked cars. I'm doing 28 at the moment. It's gone down to 26 because of the traffic up ahead. And we're going to take a left turn. So we can see already that the speed limit is dropping to 20 miles an hour. I'm going to go way below that for this junction. I'm at 17, 15, 14 now. And there's some cars coming towards me, I'm going to get squeezed. Less space, less speed. If I've got less space on the road, I'm going to use less speed as well. My steering is going to be more accurate the slower I go. So now there's no cars coming towards me, I've got more space, I can increase my speed back up to 20 miles an hour. I'm doing 15 at the moment, is that appropriate? I'm now doing 14, 13, 12 as I overtake this bin lorry. There's a cyclist coming towards me. the bin lorry's moving off. With this road being 20 miles an hour, is 20 miles an hour a safe speed? I'd say it's absolutely variable depending on the road conditions. I'm doing 12 at the moment to overtake this bin lorry. Now I can see the level of hazard has changed. There's nothing ahead of me, parked cars and stuff, but I feel quite safe and comfortable with the width of the road at 20 miles an hour here. So nicely demonstrating the fact that just because it's the speed limit, it doesn't mean that I need to go at that speed all the way down the road. If you're driving as safely as possible, especially on your driving test, you need to demonstrate that you understand the varying levels of risk and hazard on the road and react to that appropriately. Okay, next on the syllabus, we're going to talk about other traffic on the road. If you live in a busy town or centre like I do in London, you're going to have to deal with a lot of other traffic on the road all the time. It's not so much a driving lesson, it's more of a mindset. It's how you react to and deal with other traffic on the road. What we can teach is defensive driving. So defensive driving is moving into a position early to defend that position from someone else taking it from you. So if I'm planning on turning right up ahead, what I could do is move to the right nice and early if I can see some other vehicles around which could want to turn right as well, which means that I've taken my position in that lane and no one else can take it off me as well. Dealing with other vehicles on the road links into so many other lessons like anticipation and planning, use of speed, planning ahead, hazard perception. So you can see what I did there. I was going ahead, I took my position in the left lane nice and early, and the car behind wasn't able to cut around me and take it off me. Defensive driving, planning what I need to do early, anticipating what the other vehicles around me are going to do, and I'll get what I need to get done early. Dealing with other traffic, I know that this road merges into one lane, so I'm checking my mirrors. I can see that this car's feeling a little bit aggressive, so I'm going to make sure that they know what I'm up to by using my car positioning to show them that I'm going ahead. Dealing with other traffic on the road is not just about anticipating and planning ahead, it's also about your decision-making skill. It's really hard to teach, you get it just by experience. The more time you spend on the road, the better your decision-making abilities are going to be. So once you've picked up a signal from another car, like an indicator or a reposition, what are you going to do with that information? How are you going to interpret it? And what are you going to do with your car to make sure you're in a safe position really early? One of the maneuvers that you could be asked to do on your driving test is a parallel park, also known as a reverse park. Go through the proper technique on this with your driving instructor or check out my video on this. I'm just going to give you a real quick example of how it should look. So when you start, you will be parked up and your examiner will ask you to move off and reverse park back into this position. Let's do that now. I'm in a starting position, I'm in reverse, and 6-point check before I start. One of the most important things on any maneuver is keeping up a constant observation of your surroundings, so you know what's happening around you at all times. Because it's not just us we're looking after everybody else on the road as well. Parallel parking, done. Okay, so the next thing on the syllabus is junctions. Junctions is just after moving off and stopping, because once you've learned how to move off and stop safely, you now need to learn how to access different roads so you can get to different scenarios. Here's where you'll learn about major and minor roads. It's important to understand the difference because now you can understand priority, whether I need to give way or whether I've got priority into a junction. Let's go and take some junctions and we'll have a look at how they work. Okay, so at the end of the road, I'm going to turn right. I'm on the minor road, joining a major road, so I've got the least priority here. I'm expecting to give way. I can also see the double broken white lines at the end of the road. I'm looking right and left, and anyone past my position has got more priority than me, so I'm going to let them go first, and I'll go second. There's quite a lot into learning junctions because it's quite early on in your driving career as well. There'll be a lot of difficult stuff that you need to master, like steering. How much do I need to steer to get around a corner? Corners aren't all the same shape and size. Some are 90 degrees, some are a slightly more acute angle, some are a more obtuse angle. It's important to be able to understand how to steer to be able to get around all different types of corners. So the procedure that I use for dealing with corners is MSPSL, and that stands for mirrors, signal, position, speed, and look. Let's turn left at the end of this road and we'll do that. So mirrors, signal, positioning, speed at the end of the road, and look right and left, and it's clear to move. Let's do that again in case you missed it. So I'm going to turn left into the next road. I'm checking my mirrors, signal, adjusting my position, checking my speed into the junction, and looking around the corner. Again, this is something that you need to go through with your instructor while you're in the car. There's quite a lot of research and revision that you can do on YouTube. Stuff like junctions, it's a practical skill and you need to be able to practice it in real time to be able to get it spot on. Okay, next let's talk about pedestrian crossings. There's different types of crossings, uncontrolled crossings and controlled crossings. An uncontrolled crossing is like a lollipop lady outside of school. A zebra crossing is uncontrolled. There's controlled crossings as well that you need to understand, like a traffic light system. On your theory test, there's lots of questions about crossings and you need to have a good understanding of them to pass your theory test. You need to have an even better understanding of them to be able to pass your driving test, because you will be tested on pedestrian crossings. Let's go and have a look at a couple now and I'll talk you through them. Okay, so ahead of me is a controlled pedestrian crossing. It's a set of traffic lights. Because it's not connected to a junction at all, I know that these lights won't change unless someone's pressed the button. But let's use our anticipation and planning skills. Someone might have pressed the button and ran away or crossed already before we got there. So we can always expect a pedestrian crossing like that to change. Here's a zebra crossing. It's uncontrolled. I need to check both sides of the crossing before I approach it to make sure that there's no pedestrians approaching. And if there is, then I need to stop for them. There's lots to learn about pedestrian crossings. There's lots of different types of traffic lights: pelican, puffin, toucan, Pegasus. You need to know them all for your theory test. So up ahead, we've got another pedestrian crossing. This one's a puffin crossing. There's a pedestrian on the left waiting, so I'm wondering whether she's going to press it. What we've got in the middle is an island. It's not a pedestrian crossing at all. It's just a refuge for people to get halfway to help them cross the road. It's important, especially for your driving test, to understand the difference between an island and a pedestrian crossing. Okay, so next let's talk about dual carriageways. It's a really important subject. It's quite hard to deal with. I've done a really good video on dual carriageways where I've talked about slip roads, entering and leaving a dual carriageway. Okay, so it's important to understand what a dual carriageway is. Is this a dual carriageway? Yes, it is. My stream of traffic is separated from the oncoming stream of traffic by something physical, like a barrier, a grassy area, anything that's physical that you can't pass. This is a dual carriageway. A single carriageway is where it's not separated by anything more than a white line. So the oncoming traffic is using the same section and strip of road that you're using. And we are entering a single carriageway. There's no divide between us and the oncoming traffic. Okay, so next let's cover bay parking. It's one of your maneuvers. You need to learn how to bay park forwards and backwards. The driving test used to only test backwards bay parking or reverse bay parking, but since December 2017 the driving test has changed and we now need to also be able to park our car into a bay forwards. So let's do that now. So once you're in the bay, don't think that your maneuver is over. Let's pay real close attention now, because this is the most important bit where you need to observe correctly, because we're about to reverse out of a bay in a car park. So we need to keep constant observation, because things change really quickly in a car park. If someone got out of one of the vans on my left and started walking behind me, they'd expect me to stop. So I've reversed out and I can go about my business. Okay, next we need to learn how to reverse into a bay. There's lots of different techniques for doing this, so I'm not going to teach you any new techniques today, but I'm going to show you how you reverse into a bay nice and safely. So I've got my reference point into reverse, full check around the vehicle, and keeping up constant observation as I reverse. Handbrake neutral, done. Okay, so it's slightly raining outside. Let's talk a little bit about driving in the rain. I've got the GoPro on my head as well, so you can see what I see. I'm looking in the mirrors and you can see that there's a little bit of rain on the mirror. There's some rain on the windows as well, which makes it slightly harder to see what's happening around me. But if you focus on the mirrors a little bit more than normal, you'll be able to see what's happening around you, no problem at all. So at the speed that we're going on, the speed that you're going to be driving on normal lessons, the rain is not going to affect you at all. Steering should feel exactly the same. The road should feel no slipperier than usual. If you're doing an emergency stop, it could become a problem. If you're driving slightly faster, just perhaps think about your braking and stopping distances. If you're driving in the dry, you've got a 2-second following distance. If you're driving in the rain, you've got 4 seconds, because under heavy braking, your car will be slightly less grippy. Theory test question: what's your following distance in snow and ice? If you said 10 seconds, correct answer. So at the speeds that we're going on normal lessons, the rain is not a problem at all. We can't see any spray from the car in front. If you're driving on a motorway though, or a dual carriageway really fast, you might be affected by spray, which is where you want to drop back even further so that you don't get affected by the rain coming off the tyres of other vehicles in front of you. So as you can see, I'm checking the mirrors before I signal. The mirrors are slightly more obstructed than normal, slightly more obscured than normal, but I'm just taking a little bit more time and care to check what's in the mirrors, making sure I can see any cyclists or any small road users like motorbikes, moped riders, so that I just recognise them and I don't miss them at all. So again, I'm just keeping a slightly longer following distance between me and the car in front, so that if the car in front brakes sharply, I'll have the time to brake smoothly. Okay, so I'm just gonna pull over here, checking my mirrors, signalling, just as normal, nothing different. Just drive normally. So when it's raining, guys, don't worry about it. Drive normally, take slightly more care, pay slightly more attention to the road, but just have fun. It's better to be in a car than it is to be out on the road. Put your wipers on, turn the heating on, and you'll hardly notice that it's raining at all. Okay, so let's talk about the emergency stop. Fills people with dread and fear, but it doesn't need to be. It's an essential skill that you need to learn to drive. Normal human reaction to something that's shocking or scary is to freeze. Imagine doing that in a car when there's a kid that's just run out in front of you. Freezing is the worst possible reaction to do in a car because your car will just carry on. So we need to train up our reaction so that if there's a problem in the road, we react by braking. And it's a reaction, it's a reflex. We don't need to think about it, we don't need to do anything except brake. Get the car stopped as quickly as possible. So let's say there's a kid that's just run out in front of me. 3, 2, 1, stop. Secure the car, 6-point check, and drive on again. So on your driving test, the examiner could simulate an emergency stop by raising his right hand and saying the word stop. It's much easier than it used to be. Back when I passed my driving test, the examiner used to shout stop and slam his clipboard onto the dashboard to give you a real shocking situation. Nowadays, it's a lot easier, and don't forget you've trained for this. You should have done this with your instructor enough times so that it becomes a reflex and a reaction. You don't have to think about stopping. As soon as the examiner shouts, stop, you are going to stop the car as quickly and as safely as possible. 9 times out of 10, the examiners don't even shout anymore. So with the emergency stop, you can diminish the possibility of you having to do one if you're anticipating and planning far enough ahead. But there's always stuff on the road that you just can't plan for. Let's say we're passing a big lorry, someone steps out from behind the big lorry just as you're passing it. You need to have the skills and reactions to be able to cope with it properly. So the next maneuver that we're going to cover is the turn in the road. It's not tested on the driving test anymore, but your instructor should be teaching you this. It's an essential skill. If you go down a one-way street and you don't know how to turn your car around to face the other way, you're going to have a problem. If you go down a street and you're presented with a big lorry that's unloading, what are you going to do if you don't know how to turn your car around? So I'm going to demonstrate a turn in the road now. So with any maneuver, I'm going to make sure that my surroundings are completely clear before I set off. Let's do that. I can see a car passing, so I'm going to let them go first. And once it's clear, quick steering, slow car, constantly checking what's around me and what's coming. Really nice slow car. Just before I hit the curb, one turn left into reverse, again checking everything around me. Steering and checking. I'm using my right shoulder to check when I'm near to the curb, and I drive off again. Next up on the syllabus, we're going to talk about independent driving. On your driving test, you will do 20 minutes of independent driving, either following road signs or following a sat-nav. 1 in 5 driving tests get road signs, 4 in 5 driving tests get a sat-nav. So it's really important that you've practiced sat-nav use with your driving instructor. The sat-navs that they use on the driving test are the TomTom Start 52s. That doesn't mean that you have to go out and buy one to be able to practice with it. Your instructor's probably got one already. If they don't, all sat-navs basically work the same. Here's the TomTom 52 that they use on the driving test. They have it on a floppy mat that sticks to your dashboard, so you don't need to bring one. The examiner will bring one of these to the driving test and set it up for you and program it for you, so you don't need to touch it at all. You just need to drive and follow it. So here's what your sat-nav should look like while you're on your driving test.
After 200 yards, turn left.
She talks to you. I call it she because it's obviously a female voice. It talks to you and it tells you where to go. Make sure that you pay attention to what's happening on the screen as well, though, because sometimes it gives slightly misleading information by voice. But if you're looking at the picture, you should never go wrong. So just follow the sat-nav for 20 minutes. I prefer sat-nav driving to when the examiner is directing you, because look at that, you can anticipate and plan so far ahead with the sat-nav. She gives you really good early instructions. You can see a map what's happening, so if you forget where you're going, which does happen because you're under pressure, remember, you can just re-look at the
end of the road, turn left, then take the second right.
You can just re-look at the map.
Left, then take the second right.
So most people do turn the sat-nav voice off when they're driving because it's a bit naggy. It's like your mum, have you tidied your room? Have you tidied your room? Have you tidied your room? Heard you the first time. They won't turn the sat-nav voice off on your driving test though, so get used to it and pay attention to it.
Then take the second left.
Will do. So driving normally, nothing different except the sat-nav's giving you directions instead of the examiner. All right guys, so we've talked through the syllabus, the subjects that you need to learn to be able to drive a car. Don't forget though, that it's not all encompassing. There's other subjects, there's other little bits here and there, and each subject breaks down into lots of different areas, which we might not have covered today, but which you will need to cover before you drive safely on the road on your own. If you found this video helpful, click the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and share it with your friends. Comment below if there's anything else you'd like to see, or if there's any more information that you need. I read through the comments and I'll be commenting back with you guys. Until the next time, I'll catch you guys in the next video.